Hey guys, welcome back. Today we are starting Unit 4B about areas. We're going to start with the perimeter and area of parallelograms. The first thing I want to show you is the area addition postulate. Basically what it says is the area of a region is the sum of the areas of its non-overlapping parts. This is going to be important later on in the chapter, but for now, basically what this means is that if we wanted to find the area of this entire shape, we could find the area of this square plus the area of this triangle, and that would give us the total area of that shape. Alright, for the area of a parallelogram, any side can be the base. The height just has to be perpendicular to the base. The formula for area of a parallelogram is base times height. You need to memorize this. Okay, for each of these problems, I want you to go through these steps. ESSA+. E stands for equation, S stands for substitution, the second S stands for solve, A+ stands for answer plus units. So for example, this first one, find the area and perimeter of parallelogram ABCD. So the equations I already have here, the area is base times height, the perimeter is the sum of the sides. So substitute the area equals, for this one, I know that I can use the base as BC. I've already written BC as 10 inches since it's the opposite side of AD, and remember opposite sides in a parallelogram are congruent. So I'm going to use 10 as the base, and the height has to be perpendicular to the base, so I see DE, segment DE is perpendicular to segment BC. So that means my height is 5. To solve, I just multiply 10 times 5, that's 50. So my answer plus units, area equals 50 inches squared. For the perimeter, I can either take the sum of the sides, so for this one it would be 10 plus 10 plus 4 plus 4. Or in a parallelogram, I can take 2 times one side plus 2 times a consecutive side. It'll give me the same answer. To solve it, 2 times 10 plus 2 times 4, that gives me 28. So the perimeter for my answer plus units is equal to 28 inches. Go ahead and try the 2 practice problems at the bottom of this page on your own. Okay, here are the answers to these. For each of them, you needed to use Pythagorean theorem. For the first one, I see this right triangle, and I recognize this Pythagorean triple, 8, 15, 17. If you do not recognize it, you need to use Pythagorean theorem to get that the height is 15. For 1B, I again recognize this Pythagorean triple, 7, 24, 25. If not, you need to use Pythagorean theorem. And just to go over this really quick, the base is just 23, since that's the only piece of the parallelogram. And the height does not necessarily have to be touching the base. It just has to be perpendicular to an extension of that side. So think back to when we talked about altitudes and triangles. The altitude did not have to touch the side of the triangle. It just had to be perpendicular to an extension of that side. Okay, let's try another one. This time we are using finding area again. However, this time they're not giving us the height, and we can't just use Pythagorean theorem to figure it out. This time we have only one side given to us, but we have a special triangle. It's a 45, 45, 90 triangle, and I know that in a 45, 45, 90 triangle, each of the legs is equal to S. The hypotenuse is equal to S radical 2. So in order to solve for the height, I need to find the value of S. So I'm going to solve this equation. S radical 2 equals 8.5. So to solve that, I need to divide by radical 2 on both sides, but I cannot leave a radical in the denominator. So I need to take and rationalize this. However, 8.5 over 2 simplifies to 4.25. So that means S is equal to 4.25 radical 2, which means that my height is also equal to 4.25 radical 2. So I'll go through my steps. ESSA, E equation, area equals base times height. Substitute, the base is equal to 15. The height is equal to 4.25 radical 2. To solve, all I need to do is multiply these together. So that gives me 63.75 radical 2, which is approximately equal to 90.156. So my answer, the area is exactly equal to 63.75 radical 2 millimeters squared. The area is approximately equal to 90.156 millimeters squared. Okay, go ahead and try the example 2 practice problems. Pause the video, see if you can do them on your own. All right, here are my answers for these practice problems. 2A, I had a 45, 45, 90 triangle. So I know that the legs have to be congruent. So that gives me a height of 9, and I can solve it from there. For 2B, I had a 30, 60, 90 triangle. I know that the side across from my 30-degree angle is equal to S. The side across from my 60-degree angle is S radical 3. Since I know S is equal to 12, I know my height is equal to 12 radical 3. Then I can plug that in for the height and go from there to solve. All right, next we're going to talk about perimeter and area of triangles. The base, again, can be any side. The height just has to be perpendicular to it, just like in a parallelogram. And the formula for area of a triangle comes from area congruence postulate. Basically what it says is that in congruent figures, the areas are congruent. And what we're going to do is we're going to split up a parallelogram into 2 congruent parts. So remember, if we have a parallelogram and we draw one of its diagonals, remember that splits it into 2 congruent triangles. So think about this. If you know that the area of a parallelogram is equal to the base times the height, what would the area of one of these triangles be? The formula for area of a triangle is 1/2 base times height, or base times height divided by 2. So it's a parallelogram divided in half, divided by 2. All right, this is a challenge problem for you guys. If you would like to pause the video and try it on your own, that would be awesome. I'm going to go over it with you. Okay, so after reading the problem, hopefully you realize that you needed to find the area and the perimeter. For a triangle, the area is equal to 1/2 base times height. The perimeter is still equal to the sum of the sides. So substitute, the base here is 7. The height is what's perpendicular to that side, which is 9. Solve that. My area, you should get 31.5. So the answer for area equals 31.5 feet squared. Now for the perimeter, I only need to add up 3 sides since this is just a triangle. So I have 7 plus 23 plus 15. My perimeter equals 45. So my answer is 45 feet. However, they're not just asking us for perimeter and area. If you read this closely, they're asking us for how many bags of mulch and how many stones does he need to buy. So what I'm going to do to figure this out, maybe you did this too, or you could have done a different way as well, is set up a proportion. I know that every 12 feet squared can be covered by 1 bag of mulch. So if I want to cover 31.5 feet squared, I need to figure out how many bags of mulch I need to cover that. To solve this, I cross multiply, divide by 12, x equals 2.625. Same idea for the stones. Every 4 inches is covered by 1 stone. However, my problem here is that feet and inches are not the same units. So I first need to convert 45 feet into inches by multiplying by 12. So that gives me 540 inches. And I need to figure out how many stones will cover 540 inches. Cross multiply and divide. You should get x is 135. All right, so for our final answer, since it's a word problem, we should answer in a sentence. He should buy. Now we can't buy 2.65 bags of mulch, so he should buy 3 bags of mulch and 135 stones. That's awesome if you got that one right. Okay, just to really quickly review which one should be the base and which one should be the height, pause and see if you can do these problems. They should be really easy. All you're doing is writing down the base and the height. All right, so for 3A, the base should be 19 inches. The height has to be perpendicular. The height's 30 inches. For 3B, the base is 29 centimeters. The height has to be perpendicular. In this case, it's not given to us, so you need to use Pythagorean theorem. The height is radical 133 inches. Whoops, not inches, centimeters. Okay, example 4, we're going to do this one together. The height of a triangle is 5 centimeters more than its base. The area of the triangle is 52 centimeters squared. Find the base and the height. So for this, we're going to follow our same steps. ESSA, equation to start out. The area of a triangle is 1/2 base times height. We also know that the height is 5 more than the base. So I'm going to use that as another equation as well. Since I have 2 variables, I know that I need 2 equations in order to solve. Okay, S stands for substitution. I know that the area is 52. And I also know that the height is equal to 5 plus the base. So I need to substitute so that I only have 1 variable remaining. The next S stands for solve. To solve this, the first thing I personally would do is get rid of the fraction. I can do that by multiplying by 2 on both sides. So that gives me 104 equals b times 5 plus b. Now to solve, I need to distribute b. So I get 5b plus b squared. Whenever I have an equation with b and b squared, I need to set it equal to 0 and either use quadratic formula or completing the square or graphing or factoring to solve this. So I'm going to use factoring. I need to think of 2 numbers that multiply to give me negative 104 and add up to 5. Those 2 numbers are negative 13 and positive 13 and negative 8. When I solve these, that's where I get the negative 13 or positive 8. I know that the base cannot be negative 13, so that leaves me with my answer plus units. The base has to be equal to 8 centimeters. The height, I know that the height is equal to 5 plus the base, so 5 plus 8, I get 13 for my height. So plus units is 13 centimeters. Go ahead and try 4A on the bottom of this page and 4B on the top of the next page. Okay. Okay, for 4a, your answer should be x equals 21. Here's the work there. To solve this equation, what I would do first is multiply the 1/2 by 34 to get 17. 17 times x. To solve for x, I need to divide by 17 on both sides. 357 divided by 17, that's where I get x equals 21. Since inches is already in the figure, you don't really need to include inches in the answer. For 4b, my equations are a equals b times h, since we're talking about a parallelogram. And it also says the base is twice the height, so the base equals 2 times h. So plug in 72 for the area, 2h for the base. 2h times h gives me 2h squared. To get h by itself, the first step is divide by 2 on both sides. That gives me 36. Now to get h by itself, I need to take the square root of both sides, and when I square root both sides, I do positive or negative. So I get height is equal to positive or negative 6. However, I know it cannot be the negative answer for the side of a parallelogram. So my answer plus units, the height is equal to 6 feet. Therefore, my base would have to be 2 times 6, so my base is equal to 12 feet. Tonight, your homework is on page 783. You have goal 1, numbers 12, 18, 20. Goal 2, number 24 and 34, and you have reflection question number 41 in your book. If you have questions, please post on the discussion board. I hope you have a great rest of your day. Bye.